The Serpent Smile, 7 Cold Laws for Neutralizing the Toxic. We are taught to fear the obvious danger, the enemy on the battlefield, the rival in business, the opponent in the open. But this is a naive and fatal miscalculation. The most profound threat to your peace, your progress, and your very spirit is not the adversary you see advancing with a drawn sword. It is the one who approaches with a smile, a compliment, a vow of loyalty. It is the poison that hides in a chalice of wine, not in a vial of venom. Toxic individuals, the manipulators, the liars, the emotional parasites, are the architects of silent ruin. They do not seek to conquer you in a fair fight, they seek to consume you. They feed on your kindness, drain your strength with manufactured drama, and intoxicate themselves on your emotional reactions. Most people, guided by a misplaced sense of honor or a surge of anger, make the fatal error of confronting this poison directly. They charge into the manipulator's arena, a stage designed for their own defeat, and they lose everything, their energy, their reputation, their peace. But the strategist, the disciple of a colder reality, never plays the fool's game. To engage a toxic person on their terms is to breathe the air in a plague ward. Today, I will reveal to you 7 laws, drawn from the wisdom of Machiavelli, to deal with these individuals. Not with hot emotion, not with naive mercy, but with the dispassionate, calculated precision of a grandmaster moving pieces on a chessboard. Law 1. Recognize the mask of the serpent, observe in silence. The fool argues, the wise man watches. This is the foundational law. The toxic individual is a creature of confrontation. They draw their power from the clash of voices, the theater of drama, the chaos of emotional combat. The moment you challenge them directly, you step onto their prepared battlefield, where they are a seasoned veteran and you are a conscripted novice. You will not lose because they possess a greater truth, but because they possess a greater endurance for conflict. They will drain you, piece by piece, until your strength is gone and their poison has seeped into your spirit. The art of survival, therefore, is not to meet them head-on, but to become a shadow in the corner, to watch in silence. Do not mistake this silence for weakness. It is not submission, it is surveillance. The hunter does not roar at the lion before the strike. He crouches low in the grass. He studies the beast's patterns, its tells, its moments of arrogance and carelessness. Only when he understands its very nature does he know where and when to act. In the same way, you must let the toxic person speak, let them act, let them reveal themselves. They cannot help it. Their hunger for validation and control is a compulsion that will force them to expose their flaws, their insecurities, their entire playbook. Your supreme discipline is to resist the primal temptation to respond. Let them believe they are in control of the conversation, while in truth, you are the one in control of the analysis. You are gathering intelligence in the one currency they cannot manipulate, your quiet attention. A toxic person thrives when you are emotional. They crave your anger, your defensiveness, your desperate need to prove your innocence. But when you remain a wall of stillness, you strip them of their greatest weapon. They stand before you expecting a war and find only a void. This stillness unnerves them, for they cannot control what does not respond. Yet, this observation is not a passive state. It is an active, relentless calculation. Each word they speak is a data point. Each action is a pattern mapped. Like a general studying an enemy camp from a distant hill, you learn where their guard is low, where their ego blinds them, where their carefully crafted mask slips. In time, they will hand you the map to their own destruction, all while believing you were too timid or too stupid to fight back. This is the first and greatest deception. The moment they underestimate you is the moment you become untouchable. Law 2, set boundaries of iron, control the battlefield. Once you have mastered the art of silent observation, you are ready for the second law: never fight on their terms, always fight on yours. Understand this: power is never neutral. It is intrinsically tied to territory. A toxic person is strongest in the swamps of chaos, in public gossip, in emotional ambushes, in the court of popular opinion. This is their native terrain, and they will constantly attempt to lure you into it, for they know you will drown in the noise while they swim with ease. The strategist, however, never accepts battle on the enemy's chosen ground. He chooses the field, the time, and the weapons. He bends the very rules of the game to his advantage. Remember the generals of old, they never faced heavy cavalry in an open valley. They funneled them into narrow passes where their numbers were useless. So too must you do with the toxic. They will try to provoke you at the staff meeting, in front of your family, on social media, anywhere they can manipulate an audience and your emotions. Do not grant them this stage. You must consciously and deliberately shift the terrain of every engagement. If they shout, lower your voice and suggest continuing the discussion in private. If they throw public accusations, respond only in writing, e.g., email, where every word is measured, permanent, and stripped of emotional tone. If they attack at a moment of your weakness, delay. This is not the right time. We will speak when I am available. If they thrive on rumors, you respond with documented, undeniable facts. By shifting the terms, you render their weapons obsolete. It is not enough to avoid their traps, you must reposition the entire conflict to a terrain where they cannot even set a trap. This law is not about brute strength, but about intelligent design. If they want to fight in the mud, you refuse, and instead force them to fight on solid stone where they will lose their footing. You must be cunning in this redirection. Do not announce your strategy. Do not declare, I am now changing the battlefield. To do so is to reveal your hand. Redirect with subtlety and grace, so they never realize the ground has shifted beneath their feet until it is too late. They may believe they are luring you into a final confrontation, but it is you who is leading them into a sterile room where their claws are dull and their poison has no vein to enter. Law 3, exploit their nature, starve them of attention. Having learned to control the battlefield, you now wield a weapon more devastating than any insult, indifference. Toxic people are psychic parasites. They do not feed on truth or justice, they feed on attention. Your sigh of frustration, your heated argument, your flash of anger, these are all morsels of energy that sustain them. Your reaction is their reward, it tells them they have power over your emotional state. Once they know they can disturb your peace, they will return again and again, like a wolf to a wounded animal, until nothing remains. But imagine you give them nothing. No spark, no fuel, no reaction. You become a black hole, absorbing their output and returning zero energy. What happens to a fire when no wood is added? It does not rage, it sputters and dies. A toxic person can scream, insult, and plot. But without your reaction, their words are just noise echoing in an empty room. You must train yourself to become deaf to their provocations and blind to their gestures. To them, this is a fate worse than defeat. War, at least, grants them significance. Your utter indifference tells them they are nothing. Machiavelli taught that a prince should never waste his resources on petty enemies, for in doing so, he elevates them to a status they do not deserve. The same is true here. The moment you argue with a toxic person, you raise them to your level, validating them as a worthy opponent. But when you refuse to feed them, when you deny them even the recognition of conflict, you reduce them to irrelevance. This, more than any insult, is the ultimate humiliation for their validation-starved ego. Of course, this demands immense discipline. Your pride will scream for vengeance. Your emotions will beg for release. But remember, power is not found in reaction, it is found in supreme restraint. Every silence you hold is a brick in a fortress they cannot breach. You are not running from a battle, you are refusing to grant them the honor of one. In doing so, you conserve all your energy, all your focus, for your own purpose and peace. Law 4, distance is domination, wear a mask of deception. While you starve them with indifference, you must simultaneously protect your inner world. This leads to the fourth law, never hand them your truth. For truth, in the hands of a poisoner, is not a virtue, it is a weapon. Once your honesty leaves your lips, it ceases to belong to you. A toxic person will not cherish your vulnerability, they will dissect it. They will use your confessed weaknesses as targets, your fears as leverage, and your dreams as objects of mockery. To survive and thrive, you must never be emotionally naked in their presence. You must learn the ancient art of the mask. The world is filled with people who believe raw honesty is a moral absolute. They are the unguarded lambs in a world that still contains wolves. Machiavelli knew that men are not angels, and to assume otherwise is to invite your own devouring. The mask is not a sign of immorality, it is a tool of survival and strategy. It is your shield. A mask allows you to control perception. You project amiability when you feel distrust, calm when you feel rage, agreement when it is strategically useful. Behind the mask, your true thoughts, intentions, and vulnerabilities remain concealed and safe. A toxic person is a master at reading faces for cracks in the facade. But the mask shows them only what you choose to project. They cannot fight what they cannot read. Is it deception to hide your gold from a thief? Is it dishonesty to conceal your sword until the decisive moment? You owe the toxic person no truth, for they will only poison it. You owe yourself protection, and the mask is your armor. The wise individual wears many faces, the agreeable colleague, the indifferent listener, the polite acquaintance. But behind them all is the calculating, untouchable self, observing, waiting, and planning. Let the toxic person exhaust themselves by attacking the mask. They are merely striking an illusion, never realizing the true fortress lies far behind it, untouched and unmoved. Law 5, Silence as a weapon, strike through indirection. A mask defends you, but power is not purely defensive. The fifth law reveals the most elegant form of strength: win without fighting. Destroy without striking. Machiavelli warned against this. A clean, decisive strike is feared, respected, and irreversible. A delayed, negotiated strike is an invitation for a counterattack. When the time has come, and you will know it with cold certainty, you do not debate. You do not justify. You do not offer one more chance. You sever the tie as an executioner swings the blade, swiftly, mercilessly, and without a moment's hesitation. This is not cruelty, though the weak will label it as such. It is clarity. A toxic person will not change because you have presented a compelling PowerPoint slide deck of their faults. The more you talk, the more weapons you hand them. Cutting is not about punishment, it is about preservation. It is the act of a surgeon removing a malignant tumor to save the patient's life. You must be that surgeon, cold, precise, and utterly focused on the necessity of the act. Law 7, Cut them out completely, always win in silence. The final law, the crown upon all the others, is the law of silent victory. The greatest triumphs are not announced with trumpets or celebrated with boasts. They are lived. A toxic person's deepest desire is to live rent-free in your mind, to know they have affected you. If you argue, you prove they matter. If you defend yourself, you admit their attack struck home. If you proclaim your victory over them, you are still defining your success in relation to them. But when you withdraw into absolute, final silence, when you refuse to even acknowledge their existence in your world, you strip them of the very oxygen of recognition. Your silence becomes the loudest possible declaration of their irrelevance. This is not the silence of avoidance, it is the active, powerful silence of transcendence. It is the declaration that their game is over because you have left the casino. You do not waste words on them because your life, your success, and your unshakable peace speak volumes. Every step you take upward is a silent dagger into the heart of their illusion of control. They once believed they could disturb your spirit, but your serene progress proves they never truly touched it. What greater defeat is there for one who feeds on recognition than to be treated as if they never existed? In this silence, you become an enigma. They are left in a fog of uncertainty, not knowing your thoughts, your plans, or your reasons. This uncertainty corrodes them from the inside. They will imagine threats and conspiracies, destroying themselves with their own paranoia, while you remain untouched, building your empire in peace. Many waste their lives seeking to be understood, to prove their worth to their detractors. This is the path of the slave seeking the master's approval. True power is not in being understood, it is in being undeniable. You do not need the toxic person to see your worth. You simply need to live it so potently that their opinion becomes background static, drowned out by the symphony of your own achievements. Conclusion: the Machiavellian way. The world will never be purged of toxic people. They are a constant, like storms or disease. But you are no longer a victim of the weather. You now hold the 7 laws, a strategic framework Machiavelli himself would endorse. The strength to deal with them lies not in naive kindness, but in ruthless clarity, precision, and foresight. Do not exhaust yourself trying to fix what was never broken in you. Do not burn your energy trying to make peace with those whose very identity is forged in conflict. Instead, stand above them. Use the laws. Observe them until you see their blueprint. Control the terrain of every engagement. Starve them of the attention that is their lifeblood. Shield your inner self with an impenetrable mask. Let their own nature and the hands of others do your work for you. And when the moment of liberation is at hand, cut the tie with a swift, surgical strike, and then ascend into a victory so complete it requires no words. Remember, toxic people are not obstacles to your greatness. They are the test of it. They are the fire that forges your steel. To master them is to master your own impulses, your own pride, your own emotions. To outwit them is to ascend beyond the petty, draining games of the weak. And when you rise, untouched and unbroken, you will embody the timeless principle Machiavelli taught centuries ago, that power, once grasped with wisdom and cold precision, can never be taken from you. So go forward. Do not be naive. Do not be passive. Do not be the prey. Be the hunter in the grass. Be the general who chooses the battlefield. Be the surgeon who removes the poison. Be the sovereign who reigns in unassailable silence. That is the art of survival. That is the art of power. That is the way.